I can confidently say as a 19-year-old doofus that getting older is actually pretty great. So you hear a lot of talk about high school or college when people like peak in life, right? That getting past this point in your life is a literal death sentence. But I think society thinks this way because old people nowadays haven't mentally matured past the age of 22, right? Think about this generation of old people. A lot of them coasted through life and magically became old just because time passed. If you think back in history, the population pyramid, that is the amount of people inside each age group, looked completely different. Tons of people were having tons of kids, and the majority of those kids died before they hit adulthood, let alone old age. So if you were an old man back in the day, that meant something. That meant you had 30, 40, 50 years of experience under your belt, and every day was a challenge. It was a fight to survive. Another harsh winter, another house built, another man died just so you could live. That was what being old meant. It was a badge of honor. Now, growth as an individual is not required to live. Life is easy now. You know, you make it through college, get some work experience, now you're sustaining yourself, possibly a family. You aren't facing novel challenges in your life every day that require you to self-reflect and see what flaw needs to be addressed. You're coasting. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but this causes people to overlook the benefits of being older, which are numerous. You know, you get smarter with your moves, how you handle problems, deal with emotional baggage, and how you organize your life. People maturing up to age 22 is default settings for our society. That's when pathways are laid out like interstates for young people to push themselves and become something new. After that point, it becomes up to them. And you can tell when you talk to older people who reached for the growth and who did not. You can tell when an old man is really just another 22-year-old guy, like maturity-wise. But on the flip side, you can also tell when an older guy is really an older guy and has the wisdom to show for it. Really, they aren't hard to spot. You talk to an older person for a few minutes and you can tell if they mentally matured past 22. How this ties back into why getting older is actually underrated as hell is that if you can overcome that hurdle, that block most people hit at 22, when all the pathways for growth and maturation stop, you blossom. You get older, which means when you are presented with a problem in your life, you have more life to draw from for reference. For example, you can think to yourself, okay, so I have to lead this group of people to build a shed in 2 days. I've led people in the past, so I know what mistakes to avoid and what tricks worked when I was a leader before. Now, instead of being the incompetent doofus kid, you're the put together man in charge. You know, you're the BMOC, you're the big man on campus. You're older, which means you are benefiting from the fruits of your labor. You put in the days when you were a young man and now you're ahead. You went on your share of crappy dates and now you don't gotta do that anymore because you locked it down with the right one. Your bank account might not be as empty, which means you don't have to put up with as much crap as when you were younger. You're working that dream job. Maybe you're in that house you always wanted. Maybe you're traveling more. But hey, society will tell you that European passport stamps can't possibly beat waking up at 5 a.m., overthinking which one of 4 hoodies you own makes you look the least stupid, going to the cafeteria sitting alone because you have no friends, and then getting made fun of by a bunch of random teenage girls because guess what? You have no friends. This lie that being a teenager is the best part of your life is also damaging to young people. They have this expectation that if this is the peak of their lives, then their actual lives are going to be horrible. That the holy grail of high school is supposed to be the most fun. And if they can't figure this out, then what are they going to do when it's all said and done? This might cause them to not see the point in pushing forward. It makes them lose sight of what their lives could be. It makes young people lose hope. And I think even older people that did put in the work and mature forget how hard being a young person is. As an adult, and I'm just speaking from experience, you'll remember when you're around children, the smallest things will put them to tears and sting like hell. They could drop an ice cream cone or I work at a swim school and you see these little kids, you just put them in the water and they're away from mom. And to them, that feels like getting a divorce or losing your son or something like that. These smallest things will put them to tears and sting like hell. And when I see that, I remember being that child. I'm put right back in that spot when I see a kid crying over some dropped ice cream. So forgetting what it's like to be young and having small issues feel like life-altering problems can also cause old heads to say being young is better when they don't know how good they have it. The thing is though, these benefits are not guaranteed. In these modern times, being an old man with tons of life under his belt doesn't come with just being older. It comes with a deliberate effort to change as a person. Now, you don't have to change as a person to like survive like old men did in the past, but if you want to feel how awesome being older can be, if you want to reach your potential, you can't do it by just letting time pass. You have to make that initiative to become the wise old man you were meant to be. Okay, end of the video spiel. I'm late on this one. I had to take a surprise trip back east. I'll go double down. I'll have a video out Friday. I promise. I'm not gonna mess it up. All right. See you Friday.